freshly pressed. I got it on the shorts.
I just was thinking about that when you sat down earlier. Like, oh, wow, this guy really fucking building a brand here.
It's called an aesthetic.
This guy's creating a whole lifestyle.
So when I was, collecting my thoughts for this episode with you, I was really looking for a theme or a concept as kind of like the guide, the overall guide for the episode.
Yeah, totally.
And so I found this quote from legend of the silver screen in old Hollywood, Charlton Heston.
Cool.
That I think really resonates to a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically creative ones. And so he said about the film industry that the trouble with movies as a business is that it's an art, and the trouble with movies as an art is that it's a business. I'm curious how that resonates with you.
Yeah, I like that quote a lot, and on the drive up earlier we were kind of talking about that, how there's this thing where the coolest things are the least profitable and the most profitable things are the least cool. And yeah, I don't know, it's a tension where I think guys like you and I are right in the middle, right, of, man, we want to do cool things, but they actually, I think some people don't get this, but things actually have to be profitable, not to make money, but just in order for it to be sustainable, for something to continue going. If you lose money, you cannot do it again. Maybe a little bit in the beginning, right, like as a labor of love, or like maybe hobbies, but like really like in terms of doing things long term and consistently in a way that's meaningful, the way you and I have approached, yeah, it has to be profitable for it to be sustainable, or else it's gonna be just a hobby,
Absolutely. And so that's really what the heart of what you're getting at is really why I wanted to start this series and have conversations with people like yourselves, is not only to further understand, how each individual guest ticks and kind of their motivations and goals, but also for the public, like a lot of people don't understand is like when they see someone with a storefront or a business or whatever, like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And so speaking of which, is it cool if we talk about Steadbrook?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
So,
it's sad, it's bittersweet, but it's, I'll just start off by saying, to me, it was a greater joy than I could have ever dreamed. I got to do so many things and do so many things with so many close friends and in community with family and customers, and we accomplished so many things together. I look back on it with such fondness, and it's really sad that it closed, but also, there's equally, if not more exciting things on the horizon, and the things have a beginning and end. Every tree here was once a seed, and it'll eventually die. So, in that same sense, I'm happy to talk about it.
That's beautiful. No, I mean, I think that if there's one thing that you and the whole Steadbrook team can be proud of, it's the community that you guys built around the shop. Would you say that that was the most important thing to you?
Yeah, the most important, and just I think America, there's this myth of like self-made and do it all by yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And for me, beginning to end, it's like nothing I did, from building a store, getting product for a store, merchandising the store, opening the store, selling the product, none of these things. Yes, I've done all these things,
but you're not alone.
None of these things were done alone, or even opening your business, every single day. You're reliant, you're dependent on all these people. And so it's a network and it's a community. And in that way, I think, that was something so cool. I'll say for 7 years, I was in retail longer, but Steadbrook, 7 years, I basically 7 days a week, we were there. We did the same thing. We guaranteed that you could come, hang out, have a cool time, talk about fashion, maybe have a cup of coffee or a little drink, and chill with some people who are friendly and cool and don't think you're weird for talking about pants for an hour. And it's so simple, but what came from that was so profound. And what you're saying, community, which is something that I really see as someone who does this too. But it's like, yeah, ultimately, in a world that's so isolating, just getting people together, I think, is not only one of the most important, but one of the only things that really matters or has any kind of human substance to it. So, yeah, it was wonderful, and again, that's where it's just such a gratitude that that anytime we did a party or had some crazy idea or some weird brand no one had ever heard of,
on board.
People showed up.
out.
They dressed up. They came and had a drink. They had a good time, and that's even what's sad moving out of the store is that is something that I know for sure we're going to be able to manifest in new and exciting ways over and over again in different ways. So.
Absolutely. I mean, whether the name changes Steadbrook or not, I know that the city's behind Zaki and the team, so I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that.
Thank you, brother.
The core community that you guys build isn't going anywhere. So let's take it back. How did the Steadbrook journey even start?
Yeah, so Steadbrook, there was 3 guys who had started it before me. They started Steadbrook, came up with the name. They ran it for a couple years, and ironically, none of them were really business guys or retail guys or fashion guys.
Oh, really?
They just really liked the idea of having a shop, and it was half coffee shop, half store.
Okay.
And it kind of was the vibe was kind of like the skater, surf guy who's like a dad now, kind of relaxed, casual. They were selling like Carhartt Work in Progress and Norse Projects, and
okay.
They had a couple of cool accounts. Like when I bought the business, we were on South Broadway, and we had some accounts like Raf Simons, Adidas, and Our Legacy. But those are some of the few I kept. Carhartt Whip was an account we kept beginning to end too. But yeah, I kind of pushed it to be much more contemporary, much more fashion driven. We went to Paris for fashion week for market twice a year, every year, and we just really were trying to be at the same tier of a store you would see in any other major city. Stores like Kith or Union or there's countless amazing retailers in the country, but we wanted to sell those brands, be at that level, tell a story in the same way. So yeah, I was pretty aggressive and took the business in 7 years from about $100,000 a year to just under $2 million a year, which was pretty
Props.
good. And thank you very much. And that just gave us leverage to hire more people, do more events, do more interesting things.
Just investing that growth back into the business.
Exactly. And that's how we grew that way, was by just always trying to, everything we do, just how do we focus on the business? How do we do things that, keep people coming back, keep delivering that value, and ultimately just keep having fun, If I really wanted to make money, I think I would have gone a much different direction than a clothing store. But at the same time, when you pursue your passion, the motivation is so much more easily accessible and just meaningful. I don't want to do something I hate.
The intention. Yeah. I think anyone that stepped into Steadbrook, no matter how familiar someone might be with the brands that you had, because you had everything from Carhartt, Rick Owens, Rude, small like crazy boutique labels that I had never seen in person, like Perks and Mini and Lanvin, places like that. But I think the thing that instantly was apparent was the intention, love, and care that was put into, not just the brands that were there, but how the store was arranged. Everything was very, the aesthetic was there.
Thank you.
There was never, no other store in Denver had that same feel.
Thank you. And to me, even something I would say about that is, I've been lucky to travel a good amount and been to most major cities in America, a good amount in Europe, and as a fashion nerd, it's like you just go find those cool stores, a lot of which are like, like kind of famous, like just go being in Sweden and going to a store like Nitty Gritty or Cali Roots, London stores like Good. There's these really iconic stores where they have such a unique expression of what their vibe is and what their city is, and
right.
And then in America, people would come into Steadbrook over the years sometimes and be like, oh my God, this is so sick. I've never been here. Like, you guys should be in New York, or like, like one time I went somewhere in LA that reminded me of this or whatever. And they're like, why are you in Denver? And to me, I'd always be like, well, one, I'm from here, so this is why I'm doing this. And two, we're here for a reason, right? Like when you go to New York, all these stores start to have a similar feeling. And in that way, actually being in Denver, we had to fight against it to define ourselves, but ultimately it was an advantage that I think we could have our own aesthetic and our own feeling that wasn't so dependent on what everyone around us was doing.
Absolutely. Because like I said, Steadbrook really stood on its own, where, the Colorado, Denver aesthetic vibe, whatever, is kind of like either really casual and laid back, or like rustic, kind of hearkening to like the mountain type shit. But when you walked into Steadbrook, it felt like you were walking into a poppin' boutique in New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I really commend you guys, the whole team, on really being able to establish your own identity, because I know how difficult it is to do, but I also know that someone like yourself who really pays attention to the details and everything, like, you sweat over the small details.
Yeah,
and you guys pulled it together.
Thank you, absolutely. And I think that's where, good catch. Yeah, it's a little windy, guys, but it's nothing to us. Yeah, I think that's, that's where on the, like, anything like that, a blank slate is so fun, because here's the opportunity to do it any way you want, and at the same time, it's kind of terrifying. Or, sometimes people come in and say, oh, it feels like a gallery or a museum, or, oh, you got these big white walls, let me come put this painting here. And I'd always kind of be like, well, not for nothing, but there's not a painting there for a reason, right? Like, it'd be so easy to put art and this and this and this and fill every nook and every cranny, and to actually fight for those minimal spaces, and to fight for the presentation, and to not for there to be a trade-off between, hey, we're not trying to necessarily maximize profit as much as we're trying to make this as cool and immersive and special of a shopping experience as possible. And yeah, so I appreciate you saying that, because we put a lot of attention and detail, and I think we had a very novel approach to what we did. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's sad, but I think happy to have learned so much, and
it's just the way I see it is, it's the end of a chapter that you and the whole team can be proud of for the rest of your guys' lives. So,
we graduated from Steadbrook University.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, kind of about like design ethos and creativity, is that simplicity is a point of arrival. And I can't wait to see where you guys arrive next.
Thank you. That reminds me of another quote. It was like, the true mark of luxury is simplicity. To only have what you need.
Because you can
luxury.
have a lot of great ideas and have a great taste and a really cool style, but it takes restraint to not include, to really curate whatever it is, whether it's your brand, your brick and mortar storefront, clothing collection, anything like that. And so what can we expect on the horizon? Yeah. Through the Steadbrook journey.
Yeah.
The ins and outs of that. What are some of your fondest memories from Steadbrook? I mean, because you guys had not only built a legendary store, a super tight community with like really eclectic interests. Like, it's not as though everyone was there because they really loved Louis Vuitton or some shit. You really built a community around the whole ethos of Steadbrook. And not only that, I mean, you had big name artists when their tour come through Denver. I mean, Steadbrook was one of the only spots to get those labels between New York and LA. So you had some legendary people come through. Just a couple highlights from your lengthy tenure over Steadbrook.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where, like, there were some really big moments, and they happened in the midst of a lot of kind of mundane, but kind of just, you know, like I think to me, like when we got Rick Owens, for example, that was in 2018. I think we got our first delivery. I think I met with them in 2017.
Was
and we
that a
received it in
moment
2018.
where it was like the boxes came, the whole staff was around opening? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, we were freaking out. I mean, it was crazy. You know, this was a brand that until that moment you would have gone, and I as a person had the experience of having to learn about this brand online, almost as if like it's a sacred lore, you know, and reading about this designer and learning about the history and just all this universe of furniture and architecture and conceptual thinking and aesthetics and
the fact that he looks like a ageless vampire that came straight out of a Berlin dungeon somewhere.
Exactly. He's just so iconic, and even, you know, as a kid I went to New York. Let's see, first time I went to New York was with my dad. I probably was, I don't know, 15, 14, something like that. And yeah, going to Soho, going to the Rick store. I mean, this was like a sacred experience. I was pissing myself, and it was so fucking cool. Didn't buy anything at that time, but I did buy some beat up Ramones off eBay, I believe, in the next coming months. And you know, I got into the world accessibly. So that moment of actually receiving the packages with zip cords that say Owens Corp all over it, yeah, it was really crazy. And just but it was really crazy for us, but it was also like, holy fuck, do y'all know anyone in Denver who knows about Rick Owens? You know what I mean? Like, and we threw a party, and at the time it was a good party. Like maybe we had at the time like maybe like 30 or 40 people come, but that was literally like the entirety of people who have heard.
We didn't know what that is.
Yeah, and like half of those people are just like, I don't know, the guys are doing something, you know, and you know, maybe we sold a couple pairs of Ramones to a few people, but like those first few weeks, as much as it was like really profound and special, it was also incredibly difficult and like, holy fuck, what do we do? How do we, and also exciting. Oh my God, we get to shoot Rick Owens and we can style Rick and we can, you know, I mean, it was so exciting. And so for me on a personal level, so fun, but also again, for Denver, for this community, for the global narrative of fashion with this, as you described, Rick Owens, kind of iconic avant-garde king of vampires, to have penetrated into Denver, Colorado through this kid, Zaki Hamid, me. Yeah, it was, you know, it was profound, right? And so
that's definitely, I definitely see that as kind of, you know, a landmark watershed moment, really, like, I'm sure a badge of honor that you can put on the store, but also, I mean, like you said, a testament to all the work you put in, the efforts of you and your team. Denver, Colorado is like, you walk in, you might see some dope skatewear in a shop, some flannel shit. You're not seeing Rick Owens, and you brought that shit to the city.
I mean, if I really want to swing my dick around, like, yeah, bro, like,
go for it.
Come on,
no one's gonna stop you. We're in the woods, bro.
I brought Rick Owens to Denver.
You brought Rick fucking Owens to Denver. Even until to the
absurd.
very day that Steadbrook closed its doors, like, I would be going through the racks and like there's shit I'd never seen in person before.
Right, brands from Korea, from Japan, from Europe.
Crazy.
Yeah, you know, so, and you know, I'm not the type to brag about it, but that's where, you know, bro, if I went and worked at Wendy's now, you know, like,
you don't have to brag. These are
my
facts.
thing.
These are just facts. You brought Rick Owens and crazy shit that no one's seen or heard about to 31st and Lerner.
Yeah, but like, again, there was a lot, and like other brands, you know, Rick Owens was a big one because I was one of the first big luxury brands to green light us, and they have a process where they send their sales team to the state to visit your store,
really?
And
you have to. The vetting process, I'm sure, is like more rigorous
other brands,
than most.
There's other brands. Yeah, Stone Island. They sent a team from Italy. Some of the like New Guards group. They had sent their Milan team. Various over the years, you know. These are real relationships that they take seriously. And again, to be in Denver, you know, a lot of times you're in Paris. They're like, which state? It's Colorado. Like what happens there? You know, like. Well, you know, and what's your name? You got you got the wrong name, wrong state, definitely wrong skin color, and wrong credit card too. So, you know, you're kind of in there like, no, I swear to God, we could sell this. You know, I swear.
Did
and
they have to? So like you're talking about their sales teams coming out and visiting. Was that just to vet you, or they were already interested and they were just like making sure it was okay, or were they like, would they tell you if they didn't fuck with the store? Would they tell you no to your face when they were visiting you?
No one really had the balls to do that. A lot of two-facedness in the fashion industry. Like it was most of the time it was people who knew us. We were in contact, and part of the process is we'd like to visit the store, maybe talk about doing a section, maybe talk about the type of assortment or the merchandising we're going to do. These are brands which are in a more traditional way. They want to build a relationship. They want to, you know, it's a lot slower, it's a lot more intentional, and it's a lot more purposeful. Or, you know, for example, like through the pandemic, the people who knew about your store and remembered, you know, some of these people, oh, they're in town for a couple days. They come hang out at the shop with you. And you know, some stores aren't this way. I was at the shop almost every day. So, you know, they'd come, they'd spend a couple hours, hang with the staff, chat about the product, see what kind of customers in your store, walk down the street to the coffee shop, hear what's going on. You know, some of the reps took that kind of care and attention, and especially say the U.S. is your market, you know, they would go and do this in all the states and all their cities with all their brands. And, you know, over the years, they really would understand the actual retail market, how things are selling, what's working, what's going on in these areas, you know. So on some levels, it was very intentional. Other times, you'd have a bigger brand. You could maybe think of like, maybe a brand like Oakley has a sales rep, right? And like he's just like on a sort of a road trip across America, just going to like every major city to kind of comb through and see if they can scour for any more accounts or things like that. And other times, you know, people are just doing their research, or other times, more often than not than both those, it's some sales rep who doesn't give a shit and isn't
it's
really.
It's just on their to-do list for their 9 to 5.
Right, like, oh, you say you have a store, like, send the order and send the deposit, you know. So, but, you know, and then, you know, knowing people over the years, and you see each other in New York and then in Paris, and see them season after season. And, you know, I mean, it's super cool to develop these relationships and see how these brands are developing, and see how everyone, you know, see how things are going. And, you know, again, to be from Denver and do those things, in some ways, I think we had to fight for respect, but it also, you know, I mean, way more fun to be the underdog, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you guys got, with what you pulled off in that period of time, I mean, 7 years is a good chunk of time, but the legacy is forever. I mean, you guys really established what you guys were about, how you wanted it to look, who the brand and the store and community was for. And yeah, I think you guys just really established the identity of the store. And like it was Zaki et al. Written all over it. Like it was, you could tell that it was you guys that put it together with a lot of love and care. And so moving from Steadbrook, I want to get a little into like your specific style, fashion proclivities. Like,
cool.
If you're when you were a buyer, I know you were in retail for a long time, obviously a buyer for Steadbrook. If you see a lookbook come across from a new brand or something, like, what are typically some of the first things you pick up on? Is it silhouette? Is it interesting materials? Is it the story?
I mean, for me, it's one of those things where it's all those things, and a lot of time your first touch point is just like some random picture on Instagram.
Right.
You know, where you're like, wait, what is this? Like, oh, I don't know if I've heard of this. Like, let me click on it. And then you're on there. And a lot of the time, you know, to me, I'm skeptical like 99% of the time, especially if I haven't heard of something, you know, and it's like, okay, what is this? You know what I mean? Is this anything valid? Is this just some fluff, you know? But then when it comes down to it, yeah, it's everything. To me, a good narrative is important, but at the same time, a short set of compelling images. You know, I can think of brands like maybe like ERL, Eli Russell Linnets. That's a collection we sold for a few years. You know, I remember that first lookbook. It was very simple. Didn't have that much product in it. It did have some pieces, but the pieces were really weird and really couldn't really tell what they were, how you'd wear them, or they were like thermal leggings and stuff. But in a short set of images, it really, I remember being like, oh my God, I'm so interested in this brand. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so compelling to me. And so, you know, and that lookbook was quite short and simple, but it was just, you know, very, it really had a narrative. It had a sense of a strongly defined style and aesthetic, and yeah.
I mean, and that just right there, like that just goes to show, like what I was saying. You know, you might have a brand or a storefront, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you know, for a line that you were just talking about, a whole team. Who knows how many years it took to conceptualize those pieces, to get the production right, make sure all the specifications and everything were exactly to T. And then at the end of the day, it might be the post-production art direction is what really gets a buyer's, what snags a buyer's eye.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's where, you know, I was kind of thinking about, you said like when I see a lookbook, or maybe that's what I was thinking about. But when it comes to a whole brand, it's like, do they have a great website? Do they have a good Instagram?
It's everything.
What are the style of their communications? What's the style of their imagery? And then, yeah, you get to the product, and it's like, well, if the product's really amazing, that's kind of more important than all the rest of it, but you're kind of not going to notice that.
I'm really big on, you know, as someone who I've built 2 brands, businesses, like one thing that I'm really big on is a cohesive aesthetic for like the entire brand. So like I come from graphic design, so that's something that I'm really heavy on, is the visual presentation, because like at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff that we're into, oftentimes people's first impression or first interaction that they'll ever have with a brand or even musical artist, is scrolling past it on Instagram,
right,
or seeing a TikTok or something. So for me, the visual presentation is paramount. Not that it's more important than the product, but I would say like in parallel, it's as important as how it's presented.
Yeah, well, I think in the same way that earlier we talked about packaging, and you're like, I love good packaging, and it's like the same way. Okay, you talk about Apple, the product experience starts like you get this package, but like really the quote unquote product experience really starts like when you see this shit on Instagram,
ad,
right?
Yeah.
So as unfortunate as it is, yeah, you get a little 3-inch square to present your goods and your story,
which is it's like almost I don't know about unfair, like seeing an Instagram post or ad or whatever obviously can be super misrepresentative of a whole brand or quality of products, anything like that, but it's almost like, you know, that's like the creative bottleneck, is like, okay, you got a dope product, you got a dope brand, you got a dope store. How dope can you make your ad?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge of
which is,
we find ourselves,
yeah,
limitless options, limitless competition. You know, 30 years ago, advertising your product, I mean, you didn't even have, the internet wasn't even really a thing in a mainstream way. So it was like, yeah, find a magazine that you're going to print your shit in, that someone's going to like, you know, place a phone order or potentially like come physically visit your location. Where now I think, you know, people are in some ways spoiled silly that, you know, Instagram is a free tool that you can communicate essentially to as many people as you're able to get in your network.
I think it's like democratized creativity to a certain extent, but it's also resulted in like the globalization of everyone's looking at the same Instagram and shit. Like it's
watered down.
There was I believe it was like one of the last Tyler the Creator interviews on Hot 97 where he's like, he was talking about how he misses people that are nerds about shit. Like people that are into like really niche fashion trends or art trends, something like that. People that collect like random weird magazines about stuff. Cause it's like you open Instagram, everyone's looking at the same shit. But
I'm totally there, you know, like everyone's now essentially plugged into the same internet where, you know, there's so many people, so many brands from like, you know, Walmart or something totally meaningless to like every fashion brand you've ever heard of, all like sort of vying for your attention.
Right.
So yeah, I think within that, and yeah, that's where so much what happens online is, you know, I kind of say like going on Instagram, it's kind of like going to the mall, right? Like you do, like, there's some cool shit, but it's really, they're trying to sell you something for the most part.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, within that is like, it's such a sort of a targeted flow of stuff you see that, you gotta, I don't know, to me it's kind of, I mean, one, maybe just spend less time on there and get inspired elsewhere, but also just kind of be resilient to, you know, again, that's why I'm like kind of suspicious of a lot of stuff, and I'm like, well, is this really anything? Is this just some shit, you know?
So kind of taking that, you know, with, I mean, I would say that almost equal to what people are interested in, people use like the products they buy as kind of what defines them as a person.
Right.
What do you think about that in terms of fashion? Like, do you think that you have to have some crazy shit to define yourself as someone who's into fashion?
My opinion on that is that I think it's kind of like at its core, a lot of what people do is some form of virtue signaling where they don't want to admit it, but like why does every tech bro have the same, you know, little Patagonia fleece and Allbirds on, you know, like,
oh my God.
No one told them they had to wear that or even things that necessarily looks that good. But it's this codification in which these people really want to be the same. They want to be seen as a peer and they want to be recognized within their in-group. And I think, to me, working in clothing and fashion and retail for a long time, I would see that so much. Someone would come in, oh my God, I love those pants. Those are amazing. Those are so fucking sick. And I'm like, dude, thank you. Like, they're actually right here. You can try them on. And they're like, oh, I could never.
Bro,
I would never.
I can't.
No. And I get it. Sometimes, like, that's not me. But a lot of times, too, I'm like, man, but 2 seconds ago, you were, like, so excited and thought that was the coolest thing you ever saw. And now you won't even put it on. Like, I'm not even saying, like, take it. Just, like, yeah, like, check these out. Let's see them in your fit. You know what I mean?
See, I'm a sucker because I've been in your store. This has happened at least twice that I can remember, is where something will be a little bit more than what I'm looking to spend. But if I try it on and it fits, I'm not taking it off.
You know, I relate to that. You have to protect yourself. But I think, to me, it just was hearing people say things like that. I could never wear that is like, well, you totally could, and actually you could actually present yourself the way you want to every day. Or I guess what me reading between the lines or hearing that over time was like, yeah, your dressing is not actually based really on your style or taste. It's actually based on this kind of, and this is kind of abstract, but what you think everyone else wants you to be or do. You're kind of, and that's weird, right? Because it's not that everyone said you have to look like this. It's that you've told yourself everyone
you think
expects,
that's what other people think you to look. Yeah,
yes,
and that's what has drawn me to streetwear fashion since I was a little kid, watching skate videos, old school ski movies, shit like that. Is like what you put on really just allows you to express yourself and kind of like, I mean, this might be a stupid analogy because we're real people that can put on real clothes, but it's like it allows you to like dress your avatar. Like the shit that you put on allows you to express how you feel that day, how you want to be perceived by people.
And there's a power in that, right? Where for me as a person of color, I grew up in Evergreen, and it was like, okay, actually, well, I might get shit either way, but if I wear a polo and some kind of mid-thigh shorts and Sperry's, I can go to the country club with my friends and probably be fine, and no one's going to be a hassle. But if I wear some beat up shoes and some pants with some holes in them and the wrong shirt,
baggy tee,
they'll probably say, hey, the lawnmower's over there, buddy, and you need to get out of here. Well, where's your membership? Or now I'm in a fight with this person, right? So actually there's a power, and I think too, to me, that was another fun thing in the store was someone comes in and like, some people would just, I just recommend some things or style me, right? And you put them in something that they just look so fresh in, and seeing someone who they look in the mirror and they're like, damn, they stand up a little taller and they feel fucking great. And now, man, like what's going on tonight? Like, what are my friends up to? And let me, what can I go do? I think there's something on the one hand, sometimes I would joke over the years, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I just sell pants, but, because I think on the one hand, fashion could be like, oh, it's so superficial. Like, who cares about how you look, and there's something valid about that where it's like, it's not everything. But I think on the flip side is like actually embracing identity. And again, to me as a person of color, when the world immediately sees you a certain way, or there's an implication with something that you have no control over, or even for me, like my name, Zaki Hamid, not that I love my name, I'm proud of it, but even something like that where people are going to make a judgment before they even have seen you. In that way, then fashion to me was actually something that was such a reclaiming, it gave me, actually, I'm going to be this person who you can't define me, you can't put me in a box, or I'm going to be outside your expectations in ways that I myself take power of.
Fashion gave you fashion was an avenue for you to have sovereignty over how you represented yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I think too, to me, it's like, go put, like, you're going to go work at a coffee shop, like, go put that blazer on or something, and like, go see what happens when you just like, go be that person who you, and I think clothing in that way, it's like aspirational, right? Like, I'm trying to be this person, like, let me do these next set of things that I see representative of that person. And so, to me with fashion, it's like, go do those things. Like, go give it a shot. Like, wear the baggy pants, wear the skinny ones too. Like, wear whatever is like calling to you and makes you feel like this, and that's where, some of my closest friends over the years, we joke about like, oh, I just feel like a video game character today, like right. I feel like an avatar from Tony Hawk's Underground today or something, or I feel like I'm from an anime, or, but I think in that way, it's like, I think especially creatively, it's like find an inspiration.
Yeah, it's really free. It can be really freeing, or almost like cathartic even.
Yeah, but then what also leads back to what we were talking about earlier is like within that is like restraint too, of like, okay, let me have a really subtle inspiration, or let me have a nuance, or let me have these various inspirations and do it my way. And so that's again where the coolest thing to me about style is how personal it is, and how you could have 100 people in a room who you say wear these pants, and you could have so many different expressions despite wearing similar things, or or to me, being in fashion, I found it very obnoxious, this trend in the past few years where a lot of designer clothing is essentially, and there's a lot of things like this in life, but especially in fashion, where the only point of this item is to communicate, like the only purpose of the Louis Vuitton jacket is to communicate, I spent $5,000 on this jacket, right? And maybe it looks kind of cool, but essentially it looks like something you could kind of get at PAX.
It's just like it's like a badge,
right.
Badge of honor, or badge of status.
Right, like this is 5K, these are 2K, whatever.
Yeah.
The shoes were 10K. It's like, okay, congratulations. Like, you could have a car, you have a really expensive outfit. Where to me, like, and again, working in fashion, so, and there's something to be said about cost also to being associated with production, and
right.
High level design is associated with it. It's going to be more expensive. It can't always be super cheap. But my point is that some of the flyest people who would come into Steadbrook regularly were people who were like, I know, coming out the thrift, coming out the bins.
Absolutely. It's all about how you rock it. Because you can put on a $10,000 outfit, but if that shit's wearing you, it's not gonna look good. You got to be able to style it. So the last question that I had for you before we get into our last two question segments is, to you, what defines streetwear from high fashion other than the price tag?
I just was listening to an interview where Demna answered this question, and I have a couple different answers, because I remember someone asked Virgil that, and his answer was, streetwear is just an art movement. It's a modern art movement. And that like really framed it for me in a way where it was like, yeah, okay, like there's now just this collection of ideas that's like the same way you had surrealism, like this is just like, you know, the more modern canvas is like now the t-shirt or whatever, the hoodie. So like, you know, it's just a different medium and a different, but I see it that way, but I also see it as, again, back to the kind of codification thing. I see it as a way, like it's kind of classism where these pants are $2,000 and these ones are Loro Piana and these ones are luxurious and these ones communicate wealth and elegance and class and taste, and these ones don't, because these ones are only $200 and these ones are over at this store, and you know, where are the materials that different? No.
It's like
are the fits that different?
a
Probably
Porsche
not.
and a Ferrari are both sports cars, but one's obviously on another echelon.
Yeah, I see it that way. And yeah, I think too, that's where something about streetwear is it's ultra repetitive, but it's really dialed into, when you say streetwear, I think what they're saying is just, they're talking about wearability, you know, where, and this is essentially what Virgil brought to Louis Vuitton, but which has now kind of infected the rest of the whole luxury world. But it's like, you know, these brands have sold like 10x the amount of clothing now that they did a decade ago, and that's because, like, again, this idea has spread so quickly. But it's that, Gucci, you're gonna put your logo just on a hoodie, right, and on a t-shirt and on these jeans, and they're gonna fit pretty fucking normal, because it turns out that's the thing that people buy and wear every day. And those are the things that also kind of communicate casual wealth, and these are the things that rich people love to buy, kind of these trinkets and these accessories. And so in this way, but here's the thing, is that all of these companies sell the same shit. Gucci, Louis Vuitton, maybe Prada does it more tastefully, but they're all basically selling the same crap. As the people that they look down on and say, this is streetwear and this is luxury. So I think, again, it's this kind of class thing.
Is it almost a facade that they're trying, that like the entire marketing and the story that they're telling is that this is really just a utilitarian product with our logo on it, but it's way more than that, I promise. Look how expensive it is.
Yeah.
It's got to be more than just a hoodie.
I mean, and that's again where like the fibers, like some luxury companies, like they have ateliers where they're making clothing in a very high-end artisanal way that is not cheap and not easy and not necessarily efficient. So yeah, like there is something to be said, but like, I don't know, like a Louis Vuitton t-shirt, you know, not really, you know, like these are maybe they're soft when you get it, but it's not really any of that much of a higher caliber. So sometimes these brands have the resources to do things on a level that are totally outside of what you would normally see, but you don't often see it. But that, I think, is, to me, is where, again, this is kind of just like capitalism at play in fashion, where it's just about selling units and marketing.
The marketing ploy.
And that's, again, where I'm like, yeah, it's kind of racism. Like, streetwear is kind of a way to like put these people down and keep them in a box and say that we, in our, you know, high esteemed positions, are, you know, this is the world of high fashion and luxury. So it's a bit of a sham. There's a bit of substance behind it, but mostly, you said, is it an illusion? I would say mostly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone else that I know personally who's more suited to answer that question. So I think you had an insightful perspective on the consumer side, the buyer side, the technical side. So
yeah,
with you being the fashion guy, I got a list of brands and designers. We're gonna list them out two at a time, and you're just gonna tell me which one you're rocking with more.
Okay. I like this.
So a little fashion showdown.
Alrighty.
All right, so
bracket.
Up first, we got Arc'teryx or North Face.
Ooh, Arc'teryx all day.
Okay.
That's my people.
Solomon or Hoka.
Solomon. I like Hoka, but Solomon.
Levi's or Carhartt.
Ooh.
It can be any division, line, just overall.
Ooh, both iconic in different ways. I'm wearing a Carhartt jacket right now. See, I'm always the guy who wants to be like, give me more details. Like, what's the?
No, that's it.
Based on that, I gotta go Levi's. They
the legacy.
They basically invented denim, or yeah, they're responsible for putting 5-pocket jeans on so many millions of people. So they got to take that one.
That's respectable. Also, this is a fun piece of trivia. So. Belts, just think about this. The concept of a belt has been around for since cavemen and shit.
Mm-hmm.
The first pair of pants produced with belt loops, 1922, Levi's denim.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So they had a pretty fucking good idea there, right? they. I mean, Carhartt sold some units too, but Levi's.
They got the legacy.
They got the legacy. Yeah,
all right, keep pushing it forward. This might be a question almost as old as streetwear itself. Stussy or Supreme?
Ooh, that is hard because for a long time I would have said Supreme. Right now, man, Stussy just is killing it. So tasteful. So classic, so core. They both honestly are pretty honest price point, but Stussy just is, to me, I see it as like a for the people brand, so I'm rocking Stussy.
I dig it. So also two legacy streetwear brands, I don't really see them compared that often, but Staple or Bape?
Ooh, that's kind of interesting. I think I would go Bape. I think Staple had some really iconic moments.
I mean, Pigeon Dunks, like that.
Yeah, really iconic, but Bape has a pretty special place to me, just in terms of this moment of Japan and America really having this convergence, and hip-hop culture and fashion and Lil Wayne and black people wearing Bape and Nigo being friends with some of these guys.
Legendary.
Like, that's very
Kid Cudi,
very moment, very
everybody.
canon kind of moment to me. So I'm rocking Bape there.
All right, now we're going into designers.
Okay.
Tyler or Pharrell?
Ooh, Pharrell. I love Tyler. Club, I love and respect Tyler, but I see Pharrell as a master of what he does.
I would agree. Tyler, though, his whole aesthetic, like I said, how I'm big on cohesive aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my hands down favorites with that.
Yeah, the world of golf and just
next level.
Yeah,
like he really built his own aesthetic world, outside of a individual collection. Like he built the whole aesthetic.
Yeah, and I think someone like that, like musicians, it's a ton of work, but they also have such a big opportunity to so many points of storytelling.
Absolutely.
Through albums,
and
rollouts. Yeah. Fashion being a part of it.
It's got a lot of layers.
Yeah, and I also, man, like being a kid who was into Supreme when Odd Future was coming up. Man, like that was just some of the coolest shit to ever happen. Also got washed out and popped pretty quick, but right in the beginning.
That's a moment.
Yeah, that shit was so fucking cool.
Special moment.
And then seeing someone like that be like, oh wow, like he's like a horror rapper or something, you know. I don't know what they were calling him. Well, they were like freaking out about him, and to see him then go on
with the fucking Triceratops.
Yeah, like and that was so offensive to these people. Like, get it off the radio, you know. Which is so funny to think about now. But yeah, to see someone like that be like so kind of punk as a young person, and then go on to do all that shit.
Just dropped the whole LV catalog, bro.
Yeah. Shouts out them.
All right, let's keep it moving. Last couple here. Comme des Garçons or Rick Owens? We talked a lot about Rick Owens, so I understand if you might be a little biased. But I also know you have...
Both difficult. We worked with both.
There, yeah.
We worked with both. You know, CDG is super cool, but I've just owned and worn way more Rick. And
I mean, I can tell from your outfit right now that you're more of a Rick guy.
Yeah, I'm going with Rick. I just but Ray Kawakubo, Comme des Garçons, like also had such a major impact on the world, and still is one of the most kind of expressive brands. But also, yeah, just Rick. Rick stands alone to me in the world of designers. So
he's in a league of his own for sure. All right, so this is gonna be a pretty niche question for our sneaker heads out there. If we're talking collabs, Joe Freshgoods or Salehi?
Man, both really strong collaborators.
Really strong. Both very extensive New Balance catalogs as well.
Yeah, Joe is one of those people who kind of like, I feel like got people talking, or kind of got, like, I don't know timeline wise, but in my head it seems like maybe Joe Freshgoods widened the door a little bit for someone like Salehi to kind of.
I think so. I think he has
but,
more.
But I also could admittedly, like, the timeline, I don't know. I think that's how it went, but if vice versa, respect to both of them. And probably Salehi, because I like his design language. I like people who, it's one thing to be a good collaborator in terms of like good colorways, good storytelling, good rollout. That's fine, you know. But people who actually, to develop a new silhouette or to take things in a new direction, or, you know, he's got his company Be a Sponge, or Sponge's company,
Be a Sponge,
which I think is like his collaborative arm that then works with like Crocs and New Balance, and like they just have done a lot with that.
I mean, he fully revolutionized the whole brand of Crocs, I would say, with the ripple topography shit, which is very rare for a collaborator to come in and like, everyone can do a Nike collab, whatever, but like, you're not gonna change what people think Nike is as a brand.
I would definitely say that in tandem, Kanye and Salehi really modernized the idea that a foam shoe could be cool and interesting in a way that Crocs were really like a dad on the grill shoe. They made it seem, this could be cool, maybe you're still running errands, but it's still a cool vibe, or like for girls, they can look cute in it. And then I think that chronologically then opened the way, I think, for Balenciaga steroid boot, all what Mischief is doing. So, major respect. And again, like, I like to see, I think to me something like that is kind of cool too, because it's like, with a foam shoe, you could be a lot more expressive, or they could be a lot cheaper, you know? It could be like, here's this fun little shoe to wear and try out. It doesn't have to be kind of so expensive and so serious.
That's a good segue into the final of our fashion showdown. The question of all questions, Kanye or Virgil, rest in peace.
Oh, Rest in peace to Virgil. Virgil, I think was such an incredibly wise and long thinking and inspirational person. I mean, he knew he was gonna die in his final years, and then he dedicated himself to giving out as many tools and resources and sharing what he had learned in his amazing journey, sharing as much of that as possible. And just, I think he got a bad rep while he was alive. People knocked him when I think he really did what you could. No
he
one
was
came close.
A visionary, like a really a once in a generation type of artist, creator, collaborator.
A genius. He's a genius and multi-faceted. I mean, he had a dope DJ career, and he was an architect.
Those videos,
he was a rock star, dude.
Clips, the videos of him spinning like UK garage techno shows, like, it's wild.
Unreal. But I'm going with Kanye just because of the significant impact he had on my life. I don't actually co-sign what's so all Kanye's. He drives me insane. But just in terms of Kanye's life as a creative spark through fashion, even through his antics as a public figure, just the impact he had on me and the way I was inspired by him. And also have, for the same reasons I have criticisms of him, because it makes me sad to see him be so self-destructive.
Right.
But he just had such a big impact on my life. I got to go with Kanye.
All right. I mean, it's a tough question, but
like I said,
both.
Virgil also so impactful as a person on me. So
Absolutely. The only thing left to do is final list of questions is called the things that really matter.
Cool.
And so these are going to be fill in the blank. I'm going to start it and you finish it.
Cool.
The thing I think the most about is
Pants.
the thing that I am most grateful for is
Family.
the thing I am most proud of is
Ooh. My vision.
the thing I can't wait to do is
Light this joint up after this interview.
if I could change one thing about the world, it would be
Oh, whew. Today, man, I would resettle the Israeli colonists somewhere, maybe like Antarctica or like maybe like half of Germany or something. And I'm sorry, they're getting evicted
Eastern
literally
Bloc of
today.
Germany.
Like y'all have 24 hours type shit. That would be me. But man, no, there's so much injustice in the world. My heart is very much with the people in Gaza and Palestine right now. But yeah, man, the world is upside down in so many ways. This I would get busy if I had some power, but right now I'm
you
going
might
with
need
my
more
people in
than
Palestine.
more than one.
That's right.
wish.
I need 3 wishes at least.
All right. If I had to describe myself in one word, it would be
Oh wow. Inspired?
my name is Zaki, and today I feel
Grateful. Beautiful day on the mountain with my homies,
Brother.
man. Nothing but grateful.
we did it.
Nothing but grateful.
I appreciate you for being the first guest on Catch Us Outside.
First of many.
It was really a pleasure to be able to speak with you about everything. I think I speak for all of Denver when we say we love you, we support you, and we can't wait to see what's coming next. Until next time, catch us outside, baby.
Yee. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
That was sick.
That was sick as fuck.
Good job.